Okay, additional topics number 1 is modeling with equations. So modeling, when you hear that as a math word, all that means is that you have like a story problem. So we're going to deal with story problems today. Okay, so guidelines for modeling with equations. You can draw a picture if it's useful. Use appropriate values and numbers to add, or to label the picture. Step 2, set up an equation with one variable. And step 3, solve for the variable. Is this what you were trying to find? Okay, so it says in order to rent a U-Haul, you're required to pay a fee of $39.99 per day and 99 cents per mile. You're moving your things from Evansville to Bloomington, so you're doing this all in one day. You're not going to take multiple days. The total price when you moved was $173.64. How many miles separate the two cities? Okay. So who can come up with an equation for this? Mm-hmm. So what were you letting x equal then?
The number of miles.
Yep, number of miles. So I'd say in about 90% of the ones that you guys do in class, the very last thing it asks for is probably going to be your x. So it says how many miles separate the two cities. So that's what we let our x be. Yes?
Is it 173.64?
Oh, yes, 173.64. Thank you. All right, so we're going to solve it out. So subtract $39.99. So I always think of subtracting 40 and then adding a penny in. So I'm going to subtract 40, so I'd have 133.64. So I'm going to add a penny. So 0.65 equals 0.99x. So when you divide by 0.99, what do you guys get? 135. Yep. So there's 135 miles that separate the two cities. Okay, the next one, it says the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 177. Find the 3 integers. So you guys have probably done things like this in Algebra 1 before. Do you guys remember how you would set these questions up? Yeah, Elizabeth?
X plus 1, x plus 2 equals 171.
Yep.
Or 3x plus 3.
Yep, so when you are making x, you're letting x be the first integer. So if the first integer was 13, the next one would be 14. It'd be one more. So that means the second one is x plus 1. So if the first integer was 13 and the next one was 14, the last one is going to be 13 plus 2. It's going to be 15, right? So that's why you have x plus 2 here. So add them together so you get 3x plus 3 equals 177. Subtract the 3 so you get 3x equals 174. So x equals 58. Now the question was find the 3 integers. So your last step is to actually write what those 3 integers are. So 58 was the first one, 59 is the second, and 60 is the last one. So that's your answer. Make sense? Okay. Now another way that some people sometimes do those is they let the middle one, so if there's an odd number of integers, they let the middle one be x. So if you let the middle one be x, so don't write this down, the one before it would be x minus 1, and the last one would be x plus 1. So then the minus 1 and plus 1 cancel, so you just have 3x equals 177, and you can go from there. So some people like to do it that way. It doesn't matter. All right, so number 3, the sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 45. Find the 3 integers. Okay, this one's a little bit harder. So we're going to let x be the first integer. So Anthony, what do you think you do?
It's a similar concept as Elizabeth said, but now you're going to do x plus 2 plus x plus 4.
Exactly.
Because you don't have the odd integration.
Yep. Yep, and I'm going to write this over here so you guys can see. So x is the first integer, x plus 2 is the second integer, and x plus 4 is the third integer. So in all the years that I've taught this, there's always someone that gets confused about this because they say, but they're supposed to be odd. So if you have x plus 2, that's not odd, it's even. Do you see why people would be confused about that? But let's think about it. If my first one was, I don't know, 5, what would the next odd integer be? 7, right? That's 2 more. So it was whatever your first one was plus 2. You're skipping over 6. so you're skipping 2 spaces. The next one would be 9, right? So you'd have 5, 7, 9. All right, so that means that we have our equation just like Anthony said. So we're going to have x plus 2 plus x plus 4, and that's going to add to be 45.
And so I got 3x plus 6 equals 45.
Mm-hmm.
3x equals 39. X equals 13.
Yep, so you get x equals 13. Good. So your 3 integers, Anthony, are 13.
15, 17.
Good. Okay, making sense so far? Not too bad. Okay, next up. So this is a picture frame is to display a 8 by 10 photograph. The frame has a uniform width around its edges. The perimeter of the frame is 2.5 times the perimeter of the photograph. What is the width of the frame? What are the dimensions of the frame? Okay, so what we have going on is we have an 8 by 10 photo. So 8 inches along the top, 10 along the bottom, or along the side. Okay, the frame is uniform width around the 4 edges. So what does uniform width mean? Have you guys heard that before? Yeah, it's all like the same width around. Okay, I'm drawing, it's not drawing. There we go. Gosh darn it. Having technical difficulties. All right, so notice the last question. It says what is the width of the frame? I don't know why it keeps doing this. Okay, so that's going to be our x. So we're going to let x equal the width of the frame. So that's here, 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 and here. So it's all the edges around. Oh, that's really big. Okay. All right, so we need to come up with the outside dimensions. Okay, so we had 8 before going across here. And we added an x and we added an x. So that means this length straight across is 8 plus 2x. Do you guys see that? Okay, what's the other one? I heard someone say it.
10 plus 2x.
Yep, 10 plus 2x. Okay, then we read our question, and it says the perimeter of the frame is 2.5 times the perimeter of the photograph. So perimeter of frame equals 2.5 times the perimeter of the photo. Okay, so we need to set up an equation. So how do we write the perimeter of the photo? We'll start with the easy one. Do you guys remember perimeter? You just add up all the sides, right? So the photograph is 8 by 10. So you could write 8 plus 10 plus 8 plus 10 going all the way around. Or usually the way we write it is 2 times 8 plus 2 times 10. Okay, the perimeter of the frame is a lot harder. It's going to be 2 times 10 plus x, or 10 plus 2x, plus 2 times 8 plus 2x, because you had 2 sides that were 10 plus 2x, and you had 2 sides that were 8 plus 2x. Okay. So simplify your equation so you get 20 plus 4x plus 16 plus 4x equals 2.5, and then 16 plus 20. So 16 plus 20 is 36. Okay, multiply. So I get 36 plus 8x equals, what's 2.5 times 36? 90. Subtract out 36, so I get 54. So what do you get for x? 6.75. All right, so if that's 6.75, that's the width of the frame. So that's in inches. Oops. Kind of hard to see. All right, then find the other ones. So you want to find the dimensions of the frame. So you're just going to plug in 6.75 in for x. So you're going to have 2 times 6.75, so 13.5 plus 10, so 23.5 is what you got. Okay, and then plug in 6.75 here, so 2 times 6.75, so 13.5 plus 8, so 21.5. So that's the dimensions of the frame. So it's one of those obnoxiously large frames that for the little picture. It's pretty big. Make sense? Okay, next up. So it says a pasture is twice as long as it is wide. Its area is 115,200 square feet. How wide is the pasture? What are the dimensions? Okay, so let's draw a picture. Now when you guys have story problems that say things like twice as long as it is wide, do we want to let our variable be length or do we want it to be width? Width. Makes sense, so that way the length is just 2w. You don't want to do it the other way. You don't make it length because then the width would be half length and we don't want fractions, so we're going to avoid that. So we're going to let, you can call it x if you want, but I'm going to call it w. So let w equal the width. So then your length is 2w. So I have 2w and w. Usually I'll write the area inside. So I have 115,200 square feet. So now we need to come up with an equation. So how do I do the area of a rectangle? That's it. So area equals length times width. So my area was 115,200. My length was 2w, and my width was w. So I get 2w squared equals 115,200. Divide by 2. What do you guys get when you divide by 2? Yeah. So w equals, is it 240? Okay, that's in feet. So you can do the little foot mark if you want. Okay, that was the first part of the question. How wide is the pasture? What are the dimensions? Well, that's an easy one. Just plug in w. So w was 240, so it's 240 feet by 480, right? And that's it. Okay, next up. Forrest wishes to find the height of a 3-story building. He is 6 feet tall. He measures his shadow and finds it to be 3 feet. The building shadow at the same time of day is 18 feet long. Find the height of the building. Okay, so we have our building. Okay, and there's the sun rays coming off the building. And the building has some kind of shadow. Mine is not drawn the scale at all. But. Okay, the height of the building is what we're trying to find, so that's h. And the shadow, he could find that along the ground, and he found it was 18 feet. Now Forrest, this is Forrest. Those rays are coming down at the same angle and creating a shadow with him. He finds that his shadow is 3 feet long, and he's 6 feet. See why I said it wasn't drawn to scale? His shadow is longer than he is. All right, so we need to set something up. So what kind of equation can we set up? Yeah, Ian?
Proportion.
A proportion, good job. Did you guys see that this is a proportion problem? Yeah, if you remember way back when to geometry, we have what we call similar triangles. So the angle right here is the same as the angle there. And then we have a 90-degree angle. Okay, so we have similar triangles because they have all the same angles. So when you have similar triangles, you can set up proportions. Okay, so I'm going to have the height of the building divided by its shadow equals the height of Forrest divided by his shadow. Now you can set up proportions lots of different ways, just as long as you're consistent. So if you're doing like big triangle over little triangle equals big triangle over little triangle, make sure you're always going in the same order. Yeah, Anthony?
No, I was going to say I can solve it.
Oh, you can? Okay, go ahead and solve it out.
So when you propose multiply, I was going to say, see, my teacher told me, let's take 6 times 18 and then divide it by 3.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take 2 diagonals and divide by not that.
Yep, so let's go ahead and show the cross multiplication for those that don't see that. Do you guys see what he was saying? You can take the 6 times the 18 and then take that whole answer and divide by 3 because you're trying to solve for h. So you're just trying to multiply that 18 over. So that's it. But a lot of you guys probably learned cross multiplication. So you have 3h equals 6 times 18. It's what?
100.
100 and what?
8.
8. Divide by 3.
54. I'm 36.
36. Yep, so the height of the building is 36. Now, does that make sense? Forrest was twice as tall as his shadow. The building should also be twice as tall, right? So I can tell from right here what my answer is going to be because I said, oh, 6 over 3 is 2. And so this one needs to be 2 as well, so I need 36 there. So sometimes you can just see from the portion. Okay, next up, so 2 cyclists, we're getting a little bit harder now. 2 cyclists are 90 miles apart, and they start riding towards each other at the same time. One goes twice as fast as the other. If they meet 2 hours later, at what average speed is each cyclist traveling? I could try to draw a little bike down here, but I'm not very good at it. I can never draw bikes. So I have 2 cyclists, and they're headed towards each other. One's going twice as fast as the other. The distance between them was 90 when they started. We want to know at what speed is each cyclist traveling. So I'm going to let S equal the speed. Should I do the faster bike or the slower bike? Yeah, so the speed of the slower bike. Because now I know that 2S is the speed of the faster one, right?
Can we use distance formula? I mean, distance, not the distance.
Distance equals,
Rate times time.
that's it. Yep, we're going to use that. So we did one like this a long time ago with an airplane. And I already set up the table for you, but now I'm not giving you the table. So let's see if we can do it. So I'm going to do distance, rate, and time. Fill this in a little backwards than what I usually do. I usually put distance at the end. All right, so the rate that one of them's going is S. The rate the other one's going is 2S. What was their time? I heard someone say 2, because they went for 2 hours, right? Did you guys see? Okay, and then the distance, like I said, I usually put that on the end of the table over here, but that's okay. What distance do I write? 2S and 4S, right? So they're going to go a total of 90 miles. So we're going to have 2S plus 4S equals 90. Do you guys see that? So I get 6S equals 90. So S equals... So the first one was going 15 miles per hour. The second one was going 30 miles per hour. So those are the speeds of the 2 cyclists. Make sense? So the hardest part of that is remembering how to fill in that table. It's really not that bad once you know the table. All right. Do some some more. I'm gonna pause this. Is it break